Morning guys, hope you had a good Sunday. On today's video I just wanted to talk about the new 62 kilowatt hour Nisan Leaf and my thoughts on it. Now basically this is mainly going to apply to the taxi industry, although some of the points will apply to the domestic market as well. Now the first point I wanted to bring up, which I've actually seen a lot of videos already and seen on the forums and stuff, is regarding the fact that this vehicle hasn't got the LG Chem batteries. Now, 2 points. First of all, I think this is a good thing in some ways because it's an evolutionary design of the vehicle that I'm actually driving now in terms of the batteries that are actually in this, which basically means that longevity and all the ways it performs at the moment are going to be exactly the same as it was on the 24 and the 30s. We know exactly how they're going to perform, which I mentioned in one of my earlier videos on the evolutionary rather than revolutionary design of the 28 in Nisan Leaf. Now, the other point, of course, is the fact that if AESC is still producing these vehicle batteries for these vehicles, that means they're going to be in readily supply, which means that Nissan is in control of how many batteries they're actually producing, which means they're not going to have any issues in terms of that. Now, going on from there to the thermal management issues, because these batteries haven't got supposedly fans or a liquid cooling capability on them, there's talk of that overheating, degradation, charging cycles and such forth are going to be affected, as is the actual charging of the vehicles. Now, with the latest software update that Nissan, someone actually mentioned, I actually watched a video, I think it was Lemon Tea actually mentioned it, somebody actually knows has actually successfully got the update authorized and it's going to go through, so that's going to cure the charging issues. Whether or not at 50 kilowatt with the infrastructure as bad as it is at the moment, without having 100 kilowatt chargers, which I think are going to be years and years away, so don't even get me started on the 100 kilowatt capabilities of this vehicle, because in the UK it's not going to be applicable. Maybe in continental Europe and the rest of the world it might be different, but here we haven't got enough infrastructure for the 50s, so that's a non-starter. So basically the batteries are going to be easily supplyable to the vehicles. They're going to charge well. Obviously we don't know if they're going to get full 50 kilowatt. I don't know if the actual rapid chargers will have a full 50 kilowatt, because if they're 100 kilowatt capability, will they get more than the 44 we're getting? So we'll have to see on that. Now, in terms of obviously the thermal management, like I just said a minute ago, software update will cure that, and no doubt they're going to incorporate that into the next generation. I would have thought they would. There's no reason why they wouldn't, because if they're an evolutionary design battery, they obviously worked out that the throttling that they was actually doing regarding rapid gate isn't an issue on the actual lifespan of these batteries. So it's the way they probably looked at it is most people are only going to rapid charge once in a blue moon, even if you do 2 or 3 cycles a day. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to affect the warranty. Now, so that's the thermal management issue out of the way. I personally think the reason I say in the domestic market this is a non-starter, in our industry it could have potentially been a problem on very, very high mileages, but that leads me to the point of the domestic market. You guys, it ain't going to affect. Most people will not keep their BEVs like their old cars for more than 4 or 5 years. So why is the thermal management going to be an issue in terms of the degradation? You're not going to keep the batteries long enough. The only downside is the second-hand resale value of those vehicles could actually be lowered if the batteries were damaged as a result of that. But that's not going to apply to you if you're leasing the car anyway, because you're going to be handing the car back in 4 or 5 years. So what's the mindset behind that? I don't get it. It's not going to be your issue. You're going to hand it back and it's going to be someone else's issue, so don't worry about it. In our industry it's different, because we could be buying these cars for a very, very high mileage. So that brings me on to the next point regarding the reasons which I said in a previous video about the reasons why we should actually go for the 62 in our industry. Even if you do limited hours or miles I do a day, by the stage that the 62 kilowatt has gone up to say 140, 150 and 200,000 miles, the degradation on that battery would still be less than my vehicle, brand new, and it would probably still have another, say, 10 kilowatt. It would probably have dropped from 62 down to a 50. I mean, the usable, off the top of my head, that's going to be probably a 55 kilowatt hour battery pack. 10% off 60, 6 off that. It's going to be about 56 kilowatt usable. So by the time you've done 150,000 miles, that battery pack's probably going to be equivalent to a 45, 46 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is more than what I've got new, from brand new. So it's still going to be performing well. And like I mentioned many times before, the infrastructure will no doubt expand, so you'll be able to charge, rapid charge a lot faster. I'm hoping a lot of taxi companies will actually start incorporating rapid chargers for the drivers that haven't got driveways, and the 62 kilowatt hour would be ideal, because then you wouldn't need a driveway at all, because in, I assume, like I say, about 45-50 minutes to an hour, which is time out of your money earnings, you'll be able to do that. But the savings you'll make over an internal combustion engine, you'll obviously have to weigh this up with your accountant and obviously your own figures to see if it works for you. Next point, because it's new evolutionary design, proven track record. Batteries are going to be perfect, which I said a little while ago. And the fact that they're going to be supplied by Nissan, you're not going to have any supply issues. Now, when I say supply issues, guys, I don't mean, I'm not talking about, which I'll talk about in a moment, in the actual vehicle in terms of supply. I'm talking about if you have an accident. If you have, say for example, the Kia Niro, and there's 2,000 vehicles coming into the UK, if you do have an accident in that vehicle, getting a replacement battery pack is going to be like getting hen's teeth. Good luck with that. Whereas globally, this car and the 62, I hope it's going to be produced in Upper Noah, Tennessee and up in Sunderland. So you're going to have widespread availability. And Nissan could actually scale up the battery production. Because if they're producing the 60s and the 62s and the 40s, maybe they'll have to do that. But the point I'm making is they're not reliant on an outsourced supplier like LG, who's producing batteries for a lot of other companies, which means they're going to be put under even more pressure. So you're not going to be able to get these batteries. God forbid you have an accident, that is. Now, going on to the supply of the actual vehicles, this is where Nissan have got no competition. And I appreciate, in the States, you guys have Teslas. I get that. Model 3's becoming more widely available. That's great. But other countries around the world, there's no competition. And Nissan knows this. It's probably the reason they didn't bother putting the thermal management on it, because they know that the batteries are good enough and there's no competition. I mean, I've heard some people actually compare, say, the Hyundai Kona, which is a lovely car, by the way. I've seen it out on the road. Looks really nice, but it's not suitable as a taxi. It's too small. You haven't got enough space. This car's tight enough as it is in the back, but the boot space, you would not get my four-wheeled oblong box trolleys that our pensioners carry around with them in the boot of the Kona. You'd have to put seats down. So where's the passengers going to sit? It's not suitable. So people comparing a Kona to the Nissan Leaf is a non-starter. The only vehicle that's comparable to this vehicle, or the 60, is the Niro. That's it. In terms of boot space. And actually the Kia is actually, the Niro is actually bigger. So the supply is going to be widespread around the world, so you're not going to have no problems there getting parts. And that's just not the batteries, that's everything. The whole car will have a supply backup that other manufacturers haven't got, hence the reason no competition. That applies to servicing, local dealership networks. When I test drove the Hyundai Ioniq nearly a year before, or 10 months before I took delivery of my 28 Nissan Leaf last March, so the summer before that, my nearest dealership that could supply the Ioniq BEV was in London. So if I have any problems with it, I've got to drive to London. I've got, where I live in Essex, I've got access to so many dealerships that can deal with BEVs, it's not funny. And that applies to around the world. So again, Nissan knows that there's no competition there. So that's another major benefit. The other great thing about going for the 62 in our industry, and for you guys, is you're going to have more travelling time. Now for us, it's about earning money. Not me. It's not applicable to me, because I don't do that many hours anymore, because I've got obligations. But if you are doing a 12-hour day and you're doing an airport run, that vehicle is going to be more suitable for you. So again, it's going to be better. And like I said a little while ago, if you haven't got a driveway, as rapid chargers become more available, you could literally leave it there 45 minutes, do some exercise 45 minutes, or go and have lunch in the afternoon, and just keep topping it up every day. So you won't need a driveway. So that's going to be a good thing. And obviously having access to that dealer network means you've got servicing. You may or may not have followed my video log for long. I'm actually currently doing a test at the moment where I'm actually having my 28 Nissan Leaf serviced outside the dealer network, just as a cost comparison, so I can actually do the first service and the second service, which includes a brake fluid change, and then after that the next 2 services I'm going to use the main dealer, so I can get some cost comparisons for you guys of like pricing from main dealer compared to non-franchised. Now another point I want to make, and this applies to people that are thinking of going for, say, the Tesla Model 3, or you've already got one in the States, good luck to you. It's a lovely car, absolutely love the look of it. Don't like that back hatch boot design. It should have been a hatch, in my opinion. It would have been a lot more usable in our industry as well, because you'd have had the glass here at the back that you could have actually put more items into. But say, lovely looking car. But unfortunately, because of the performance it's got, whether or not they detune it for the UK market or other markets, that's going to attract a very, very high premium. Now, our taxi insurance doesn't work like the domestic market insurance. We pay a hell of a lot of money. I mean, my insurance policy most years is upwards of £1,300 to £1,400. I think the highest I've ever paid was £3,200 for a year. And that was... I've got about 7 or 8 years ago. But anyway, the point I was making is that's going to attract a Group 20 insurance. So you guys in the domestic market, you need to take this on board, because your insurance premiums are going to fly through the roof. That car's performance is going to attract the highest premium. I tell you that for nothing. Something that does 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds or 5.5 seconds, wherever it's quoted, let alone the performance models, is going to get that premium on it, and it's going to go through the roof. So that's something to bear in mind that a lot of people don't mention. Whether you can incorporate that into your lease plan, I don't know if they do that, if you can get insurance bundled into it, and I don't know, maybe. For us it's non-applicable, but it's just something to bear in mind. So now going back to the 2018, and it should be applicable to the 2019 Nissan Leaf, is the driving dynamics. And what I mean by that is the ride, the handling and the steering should be pretty much identical. I appreciate that vehicle's got a little bit more torque and a lot more powerful electric motor. Whether it's going to be a tyre shredder, who knows. Personally, this vehicle will spin the front wheels on demand in the dry at 20 mile an hour. All you're going to do is burn your tyres out. It's great if you want to just do wheel spins all the time, but in a practical sense, it's not good. I don't know if Nissan in the taxi industry is going to be able to detune that, because personally, I'd rather have more efficiency, or better efficiency, or more range, if that's applicable to detuning it. I don't know, but that's something that obviously we might be able to do at some point. Now, the other thing, of course, that I want to mention, and I will be doing a subsequent video on my own vehicle, the 2018 Nissan Leaf, is the build quality. Not so much the interior build quality, which is phenomenal. No squeaks, no rattles, nearly 30,000 miles. Brilliant job, Nissan. What I wanted to talk about was the paintwork. Now, I've actually owned, if you haven't been watching this video vlog for long, I've actually owned 5 Kias previous to my Nissan Leaf, and I love Kias, absolutely love them. Hyundai, by the way, and Kia are under the same umbrella parent group. They basically own the whole lot, and I've owned many Kias. I absolutely love them. They've done fantastic service me. Very, very little things went wrong. My old Rattler had one thing go wrong at 94,000 miles, which was a diesel fuel filter, which I believe was £11. It was done under warranty, because it's got a 100,000 mile warranty, and that was all I'd go wrong with it. So phenomenally reliable vehicles, lovely interiors. I mean, they're a little bit basic in parts, much like the Leaf is. I mean, hard plastics and stuff. Got some soft touch plastics, but overall, thoroughly recommend them if you're buying an internal combustion engine vehicle. They're absolutely lovely vehicles, very, very reliable. But what I wanted to focus on here, in comparison to the Hyundai Kia, is the paintwork. And I tell you what, hands down, this vehicle's paintwork is off the charts compared to those other manufacturers. I don't know if it's the paint process they're doing in the UK compared to in Korea where they're natively made. I don't know. But I'll tell you something now, the paintwork on this car is stunningly good. And like I say, I will do a video when I'm outside on a future video. I do wax all my cars religiously, at least once a month. I keep them looking really, really nice, no matter who, whatever brand they are. But when you're applying wax and when you put wax on this paintwork, don't ask me why, I'm not a paint expert, maybe someone can explain to me, but this vehicle's paintwork, and maybe it's just my one, is stunning. It's like a mirror finish. Very, very little orange peel. But even when you put wax on them, what I used to find was I'd put wax on my old Kias, and if I applied it over a month, you'd get smears of it underneath. This, it just comes off and it just leaves it stunning. And it still looks phenomenal. 30,000 miles. I appreciate I've only had it 9 months, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like it's obviously gone through the air for all of that time. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely love it. Sorry, phenomenal. My bad. Now, the final part I wanted to make, and this is only applicable to the Nisan Leaf, and it's one thing that a lot of people always fail to mention, and even I do, because you just get so used to it and I forget about it and how great it is. And Nissan had the right words on this vehicle at launch. It's simply amazing, and that's the EPedal. I can't emphasize this enough, guys, which I've mentioned before. Medicinally, it's a game changer. I get out of this vehicle, I mean, today I've done about 80 miles. I've done a trip into London earlier, and I still feel like I've done about 5 minutes in it. It puts you into such a good state of mind, and I appreciate all BEVs have the regen that slows you down, and I get all that, but it's the complete one pedal driving that makes this car and sets this car apart from all others. And this is why I emphasize a lot of the times, guys, this is aimed at the taxi industry. In the domestic market, you go from A to B, we go A to B, B to C, C to D and E and so forth, all day long, every day. So we're in the cars, these are our offices, and the EPedal in our industry is probably the best thing I think I've ever had on any vehicle, and I'd be gutted if I ever had to go to a vehicle that didn't have it. And that's not putting anything down against other BEVs that are actually out there. They're all nice. I like all BEVs. I love all of them. If I see a Tesla go past, I wave to them. If I see an e-Golf or an e-Up, I wave to them. Whether they wave back to another matter, they probably think I'm a complete loon. But, you know, I've got an appreciation of BEVs. All BEVs. I love them all. I think they're the best thing since sliced bread. There's so many plus points, as you know, if you've owned a BEV for years over internal combustion engine vehicles, from not having to queue up at petrol stations, stepping out in diesel, the ease of the way it works, the silence, not having to spend time going to get parts, and all the things I've said in all my vlog over the last nearly a year now. I'd hate to go back to an internal combustion engine vehicle. So I love BEVs, but I say the EPedal is the main feature in our industry that you really, really need to take on board. And I appreciate a lot of people that haven't drove the Leaf probably won't appreciate on a day-to-day basis. It really does make that world of difference, and it just puts you into such a relaxed state of mind, along with the lack of vibration and the noise and everything. It all goes together. But the EPedal is like the icing on the proverbial cake at the top. Or the cherry on top of the icing, because the icing is the rest of the car. But it's just absolutely phenomenal. And so, yeah. So now I will move on to the little negatives of things I think they should have improved on the 2019 Nisan Leaf. So, as some people have mentioned, the trims, they haven't updated nothing. It's basically exactly the same model, inside and out, as the new one. You've got a little tiny different badge on the back of the vehicle. I think they could have done something with the infotainment screen. The resolution is fine, like I mentioned before, but they could have added either TomTom Maps or Google Maps built into it and use updated graphics. That would have been a start. They could have done things like, or added, and I hope they have, the off headlamp switch, which I've mentioned a few times. They could have changed the seat design. There's nothing wrong with the width for this vehicle. They could have easily have made the seats bigger. Some people actually love them, and each to their own. For me, I just think they're too cramped. They're made for a lot narrower frame people. Although I've lost a lot of weight, I'm fine now, but Some people that are in between either being too large or too small will have, if they're a tax driver, they might have the problems that I've actually had with it. The heated rear switch for the rear seats, if you've got that fitted like that option, they could have moved it up to the front. Hopefully they might have done that. The interior rear light, which a lot of people complains about, especially in our industry, people changing money or using the debit card on the card readers and stuff, when you're holding it back, it's just easier if it was a lot more brighter. I don't know if an LED bulb would actually make a difference to that, because it's like an opaque. That's something I hope they change, maybe make it a bit bigger and move it back a bit. There's not a lot, being honest. Yeah, the buttresses at the front could be done away with. I think they're still going to be in it, sadly. And maybe they could have done something with the centre console to, you know, where you've got like the cup holders and the electronic parking brake. Maybe, because that's just hollow, that could have been deeper. They could have done something with that. Or just redesign this whole centre bit. I know that there's battery sections under it, but they don't come up as high as what they show. They could have done something, maybe made this a little bit more deeper to incorporate, you know, your odds and sods in there. Glove box isn't a problem. I'm actually quite fine with that. And that's about it. Like I say, overall, the car, the 2018 and the 2019, will do your job admirably. The boot's big enough, the interior space is adequate, and everything else about it is fine. But now, when I always mention about efficiency in my videos, a lot of people will always go on about, and rightly so, there are vehicles out there that are a lot more efficient than the Leaf. That's a given. I don't know if it's thanks to the drivetrain they're using, whatever. I'm not a technical or electrical engineer, I don't know. But what I will say is that personally, we're at the beginning of the efficiency in terms of like how internal combustion engines. We're very, very inefficient in the first incarnations. We're still at the early stages, and personally, if a BEV does, this does about 4.1, I think 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour today. That's about my average. If I was getting 5 miles per kilowatt hour, so I'd get another, what would that be giving me? Probably about another 35 miles a day. Ain't going to make a difference. Only on longer runs it's going to make a difference. And do you get better longevity having less efficiency? Who knows? That's our point of doing this vlog, guys. Don't know. They're all unknowns. And people can go on about XYZ with all the other manufacturers around the world. They're all unknowns, guys. Same as this vehicle. Yeah. I don't believe in judging a book by its cover. I read the whole article and then make an informed decision on it. That's the whole point of doing this vlog. Everyone can say, oh, as an example, not to if anyone, Tesla's got XYZ. Great. Fantastic. But how does it perform like when they've done X 100,000 miles? I'm not talking about the S model, because that's already been proven. And obviously there's a driver out, I believe, out in one of the Scandinavian countries who's done a very high miles. He's had a few electric motors, which is kind of like, in my opinion, I thought that was the whole point of going for these vehicles, because the electric motors had, like, they could do like 900,000 miles. But he's gone through free at 300,000 miles, so that's not a great. But anyway, it depends on how much electric motors are, of course. But the point I was making is I was referring more to the latest models, like the Kia Niro, as an example. It's unproven. And the Model 3. I mean, I don't know if anyone's using the Model 3 in taxis around the world yet. I haven't seen nothing on YouTube or any of the forums that I visit. They will do in time, I no doubt, guess. I don't know, maybe that boot might be an issue. I don't know, but the point I'm trying to make is, guys, they're all unknowns. And everyone's going on about XYZ that are completely irrelevant because there's no data. We can't have a, you know, say about XYZ about any vehicle until you've actually got the data. I mean, this won't be my first BEV and hopefully never my last, because I love them, like I said a little while ago. But my next vehicle, I will probably be going back to Kia, because I love Kia vehicles. I've made it known on my channel quite a lot. I love the thing about the Kia Niro is it's got what I class as, I don't know, in the States you call them station wagons, we call them estates. So they've got a lot better it's got a lot better loading capabilities over the Nissan Leaf, and that's maybe Nissan might produce an estate or station wagon version of this vehicle. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens further down the line. But by the time I get ready to change out of this vehicle, we're going to be talking in the 2021, 2022. There's going to be a wealth of BEVs out in the market, and the whole point, like I say, is that Nissan hasn't got competition yet. In 3 or 4 years, there's going to be competition. So Nissan will have to get his act together. But right here and now, they don't need to. What, I mean, if you was manufacturing a vehicle and you know you've got no competition, why would you go above and beyond when there's no need to? The vehicle's working perfectly. Okay, it's not the most efficient one on the market. It's probably not the best looking one on the market. But what it does, great, is provide very good, reliable, solid, ample roomed travel, and at a good price point. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I wanted to say regarding the 62 kilowatt hour Leaf. And like I say, I can't emphasize this enough. If you are in the market for a BEV, you need to look at your own particular needs. If you currently drive a station wagon, you might have other things that, like in your regular customers that you pick up, you might have specific needs. These vehicles won't be for everyone. When I'm talking about these vehicles, the Nissan Leafs won't be for everyone. Like I mentioned a while ago regarding the Kona, that's not going to be for everyone because it's a relatively small car. Your needs are going to be different. You need to get the vehicle like we all do of all our old vehicles that we've bought, even internal combustion engine vehicles, whether you drive a 7-seater. These vehicles aren't going to be for everyone. You've got to look at the whole complete picture, but all I can tell you at nearly 30,000 miles is I've got little sign of degradation on the battery, because I know my vehicle like you know your vehicles, and it's solid as a rock. Okay, I've had a few little things of it, like the mirrors, and I've mentioned about the steering was a bit light. It seems a lot different since I've done it. I don't know what's the matter with it. Maybe there's something that I'm not aware of. But the bottom line is this vehicle, I'd say, is 95% perfect. And there ain't a lot of vehicles I've ever owned that I can ever say that about. They've all got their little niggles and quirks and whatever. There's no such thing as a perfect vehicle, but these get as close to perfection as I've ever seen in a vehicle. If Nissan made a station wagon estate version of the Leaf, the 62 kilowatt, in another year or two's time, with all of the above that I've just said in terms of availability, in case you have an accident and you need parts, or parts outside the warranty and the dealer network and da-da-da-da-da, I'd probably stick with Nissan. I really would, because it is a kind of concern when you've got vehicles. I mean, in a year's time, Hyundai, Kia might get their act together and start mass producing the Neros and all of the other vehicles they've got coming through the ranges. But until that comes, guys, this is about the only vehicle out there that's suitable. Anyway, guys, I hope you found that informative to a point, and I hope I didn't tread on anyone's toes. Like I said a little while ago, I love all BEVs, so don't think I'm popping. This is just, I'm putting it out there to you guys in terms of a workhorse, and you should know all of the facts that are available to you, not just from my channel, from other channels out there regarding these vehicles, so you can make an informed decision on what vehicle is suitable for you. Anyway, guys, I'm going to crack on, 'cause I've got a job, and I will catch up with you guys on the next one. Bye for now.